Shalewa, unable to bear the thought of her former servant becoming a queen, plotted to disrupt their happiness. Consumed by jealousy, she devised a sinister plan to drive a wedge between Kimi and the prince. Frustrated by her failed attempts, Shalewa resorted to a more dangerous scheme. She planned to poison Prince Tayo, making it appear as if Kimi was responsible. She believed that with the prince out of the picture, Kami's fortunes would crumble and she would be cast out of the palace. Once upon a time, in a faraway village, there lived a rich merchant named Gogo. He was known far and wide for his wealth and kindness. Gogo married Shalewa, the beautiful daughter of Amope, the bead goddess of the town. Their wedding was a grand affair, the biggest the village had ever seen. Due to Amope's popularity and kindness, Shalewa received many gifts and well wishes on her special day. Among these gifts was a servant girl named Kemi, given to Shalewa with the advice to treat her kindly and never to mistreat her. In the beginning, Shalewa was kind to Kemi. She treated her more like a younger sister than a servant. Kemi was grateful for her kindness and worked hard to please her new mistress. They lived happily together in Gogo's large, comfortable house. But as time passed, things began to change. 8 months after the marriage, Shalewa was expecting a baby. This should have been a happy time, but instead, Shalewa began to change. She started to mistreat Kimi, sending her out in the hot sun to fetch water from the stream or to cut firewood. Sometimes, Shalewa even refused to give Kemi food. Tragically, when Shalewa gave birth, she lost her baby. Heartbroken and full of grief, she blamed Kemi for her misfortune. She accused her of bringing bad luck and being the cause of her child's death. Kemi was devastated by these accusations, but she had no choice but to endure the harsh treatment. Even when Shalewa later had 2 beautiful daughters and a son, she continued to blame and curse Kemi for the death of her first child. Kemi's life became a cycle of endless work, harsh words, and loneliness. But despite her hardships, she remained kind-hearted and hardworking, always hoping for better days. One day, Shalewa sent Kemi on an errand to the village square to meet her old friend. It was on this journey that Kemi's life would take an unexpected turn, leading her to a destiny she never could have imagined. Little did she know, her encounter with a stranger would change her life forever. The sun was high in the sky, beating down relentlessly as Kemi made her way to the village square. Her feet were tired, but she dared not stop, knowing Shalewa would be furious if she was late. As she hurried along the dusty path, lost in her thoughts of weariness and sadness, fate had a surprise waiting for her. In the village square, bustling with people and noise, Kemi's path crossed with Prince Tayo, the only son of the king. The prince, known for his kindness and wisdom, was struck by the sight of the young girl hurrying through the crowd, her face showing signs of hardship and fatigue. "Hey, young lady," he called out, his voice gentle yet commanding. Kemi turned, surprised to be addressed by the prince. She greeted him respectfully and tried to continue on her way, but the prince was intrigued. "Who are you, and what are you doing in this hot sun?" Prince Tayo asked, his eyes filled with concern. "My name is Kemi. I am on an errand for my madam," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The prince sensed there was more to her story, but decided not to pry further at that moment. Instead, he asked her to meet him at the same place by sunset the following day. Kemi was hesitant, but something in the prince's kind eyes made her trust him. She nodded in agreement and rushed back to complete her errand, unaware that this brief encounter was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Upon returning home, Kemi found Shalewa in a furious mood. "Why are you late?" Shalewa demanded, her voice sharp and unforgiving. Kemi, shaken by the day's events and fearful of Shalewa's anger, found herself speechless. In her rage, Shalewa made a decision that would unknowingly set Kemi's destiny in motion. "Pack your things and leave my house," she screamed. Kemi begged and wept, pleading for mercy, but Shalewa's heart was hardened by grief and anger. With nowhere to go and no one to turn to, Kemi took her small bag of belongings, worn and tattered, and left the only home she had known since coming to the village. She wandered aimlessly, the weight of her loneliness and uncertainty heavy on her heart. As night fell, she found shelter in an abandoned hut, her mind racing with fear and confusion about what the next day would bring. The next morning, with the sun rising on a new day, Kemi continued her journey, her destination unknown. Little did she know that her path would soon cross again with Prince Tayo, and her life would take a turn toward a future she never dared to dream of. As she walked, lost in thought, she stumbled upon Prince Tayo once again. This time, their meeting felt like a sign of hope in Kemi's troubled life. The prince, seeing her distress, stopped and listened as Kemi poured out her heart, telling him about the harsh treatment she had endured under Shalewa and her sudden dismissal. Prince Tayo listened with a heavy heart. Moved by her story and struck by her resilience and kindness, he made a decision that would alter the course of her life. He invited Kemi to the palace, promising her a safe haven. Hesitant but desperate, Kemi accepted his offer, and together they journeyed to the royal palace, a place Kemi had only ever dreamed of seeing. Upon arriving at the palace, Kemi was greeted with a kindness she had not known for a long time. She was given beautiful clothes to replace her tattered ones and a comfortable room to stay in. The palace staff, upon hearing her story, welcomed her warmly. For the first time in a long time, Kemi felt safe and cared for. As days turned into weeks, Kemi adapted to life in the palace. She worked alongside the other servants, but it was clear to everyone that she was no ordinary girl. Her hard work, intelligence, and kindness did not go unnoticed, especially by Prince Tayo, who found himself increasingly drawn to her spirit and grace. Meanwhile, Kemi was overwhelmed by the prince's kindness and the respect she received at the palace. She worked diligently, grateful for every moment of peace and safety. But deep down, she harbored a fear that this new life could be snatched away as quickly as it was given. It was during this time of transition that Prince Tayo, seeing the goodness in Kemi's heart and her beauty, both inside and out, began to consider a future with her. He was captivated not only by her physical beauty, but also by her strength of character and her resilience in the face of adversity. As time passed in the palace, Kemi's life began to transform in ways she had never imagined. She grew more comfortable in her new surroundings, and her natural intelligence and grace shone brightly. Her kindness and hard work endeared her to everyone in the palace, and she soon became a beloved figure among the staff and the royal family. Prince Tayo in particular found himself increasingly captivated by Kemi. He admired her resilience, her kindness, and the quiet strength she exuded. They spent more time together, and he showed her the beauty of the palace gardens, shared stories of his travels, and listened intently as she spoke of her dreams and hopes. In these moments, a deep and genuine bond began to form between them. Kemi, for her part, was moved by the prince's genuine concern and kindness. She had never met anyone like him, someone who saw her for who she truly was, beyond her status as a servant. His respect and care for her warmed her heart, and she found herself falling for him. The prince, realizing his deepening feelings for Kemi, decided to take a bold step. One evening, Under the starlit sky in the palace gardens, he proposed to Kemi. He expressed his love for her and his desire to spend his life with her, not as a servant, but as his queen. Kemi was overwhelmed with emotion. She had never dared to hope for such happiness. After a moment of stunned silence, she accepted his proposal, her heart full of love and gratitude. The news of their engagement spread quickly through the palace and the village, and everyone rejoiced at the union of the kind-hearted prince and the resilient Kemi. The king, pleased with his son's choice, gave them his blessing, and preparations for a royal wedding began. However, amidst the joy and celebration, there was one person who was not pleased with this turn of events: Shalewa. When she heard that her former servant was to become the queen, her shock and disbelief turned into resentment. She couldn't understand how Kemi, whom she had treated so poorly, could rise to such a position of honor and respect. As the kingdom prepared for the grand wedding of Prince Tayo and Kemi, a shadow of malice loomed over the joyous occasion. Shalewa, unable to bear the thought of her former servant becoming a queen, plotted to disrupt their happiness. Consumed by jealousy, she devised a sinister plan to drive a wedge between Kemi and the prince. Shalewa spread false rumors about Kemi, attempting to tarnish her reputation. She whispered lies to the palace staff and nobles, suggesting that Kemi was not who she seemed. But her words fell on deaf ears, as Kemi had already won the hearts of the people with her kindness and integrity. Frustrated by her failed attempts, Shalewa resorted to a more dangerous scheme. She planned to poison Prince Tayo, making it appear as if Kemi was responsible. She believed that with the prince out of the picture, Kemi's fortunes would crumble, and she would be cast out of the palace. Shalewa enlisted the help of a servant, whom she had once wronged, to carry out her vile plan. She instructed the servant to poison the prince's food, which Kemi was to serve him. However, unknown to Shalewa, the servant harbored a deep sense of gratitude towards Kemi. Years ago, when the servant had accidentally broken a jug in Shalewa's house, it was Kemi who had stepped in to save her from Shalewa's wrath. Remembering Kemi's kindness, the servant could not bring herself to carry out such a wicked act. Instead, she switched the poison with a harmless substance that would cause the prince to fall into a deep sleep, mimicking death. The plan unfolded as Shalewa had orchestrated, with Kemi unsuspectingly serving the tainted food to the prince. The kingdom was plunged into despair when Prince Tayo fell into an unresponsive slumber. Everyone believed he was dead, and Kemi was overcome with grief, not knowing she was being framed for his demise. Shalewa watched, believing her plan had succeeded. However, 2 days later, a miracle occurred. Prince Tayo awoke from his deep sleep, much to the joy and relief of the entire kingdom. In the wake of this strange event, an investigation was launched to uncover the truth behind the prince's mysterious condition. The servant, burdened by guilt, came forward and confessed everything. She revealed Shalewa's plot and her own decision to switch the poison. The truth about Shalewa's jealousy and deceit came to light, shocking the royal family and the villagers. Prince Tayo and Kemi were relieved and grateful to the servant for her bravery in coming forward. Shalewa's actions were publicly exposed, and she faced the consequences of her treachery. In the face of this ordeal, the love and trust between Kemi and the prince only grew stronger. They realized that no plot or scheme could break the bond they shared. The kingdom rejoiced as the wedding day approached, now even more eagerly anticipated. The story of how Kemi's kindness had saved the prince reinforced the belief in the power of good over evil. The day of the royal wedding arrived. a day that was to be remembered for generations in the kingdom. The air was filled with excitement and joy as the people celebrated the union of Prince Tayo and Kemi, whose journey from a mistreated servant to a beloved queen had inspired everyone. The palace was adorned with the most beautiful decorations, flowers from the royal gardens, and vibrant fabrics that draped the walls and floors. Musicians played joyful tunes, and the aroma of delicious feasts filled the air. The entire kingdom came together, eager to witness the marriage of the prince to the woman who had captured his heart with her kindness and resilience. Kemi, dressed in a stunning royal gown, looked like a vision as she walked down the aisle. Prince Tayo, waiting at the altar, was overcome with emotion at the sight of her. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they knew that their love had triumphed over all adversities. The ceremony was beautiful, a perfect blend of royal tradition and heartfelt emotion. When they were finally pronounced husband and wife, the kingdom erupted in cheers and applause. As King Tayo and Queen Kemi began their reign, they brought a new era of kindness and justice to the kingdom. Their experiences had taught them the importance of compassion, and they ruled with a fair and loving hand. Kemi used her position to advocate for the less fortunate, remembering her own humble beginnings. She worked to ensure that no one in the kingdom would ever suffer as she had. However, their journey was not to be without challenges. Shortly after their wedding, a devastating fire broke out in the village, affecting many, including Shalewa. In her desperation, Shalewa turned to the palace for help, not knowing that the queen she would face was none other than Kemi. In the aftermath of the devastating fire, Shalewa found herself in a dire situation. Having lost her husband and with her home destroyed, she struggled to care for her children. With no other options, she made her way to the palace, hoping for assistance. With a great fear in her heart, knowing she would come face to face with her past. Upon arriving at the palace, Shalewa was taken aback to see Queen Kemi sitting regally beside King Tayo. The roles had reversed dramatically. The once mistreated servant was now the queen of the land. Shalewa's heart sank with guilt and shame as she remembered how poorly she had treated Kemi. With great humility, Shalewa approached the throne, her head bowed. She pleaded for forgiveness and help, recounting her current plight and expressing deep remorse for her past actions. The entire court watched in silence, wondering how the queen would respond to the woman who had once made her life so miserable. Queen Kemi listened quietly, her face a mask of calm. She looked at Shalewa, not with anger or bitterness, but with a compassion that spoke volumes of her character. In a voice filled with kindness, she addressed Shalewa, offering not only forgiveness, but also the assistance she needed to rebuild her life. The court was moved by Queen Kemi's display of grace and mercy. Her decision to help Shalewa, despite their past, was a powerful testament to her strength and kindness. Kemi understood that true leadership was about lifting others, even those who had wronged you. Shalewa, overwhelmed by the queen's generosity, vowed to leave the village and start anew, carrying with her the lesson of kindness she had learned from Kemi. The experience changed her, and she promised to be a better person, to treat others with the respect and kindness they deserved. And so, King Tayo and Queen Kemi lived a long, happy life, ruling their kingdom with love and fairness. Their story was told and retold, a beacon of hope and a reminder of the power of kindness. And with that, dear viewers, we come to the end of our story. I hope it has inspired you as much as it has inspired me. Remember, kindness can change the world, one heart at a time. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. See you in our next story. Goodbye.